I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. My hands were wrapped around a chipped ceramic mug, the same one I used every morning, filled with lukewarm black coffee. I sat in silence at the kitchen table, my back to the morning light spilling through the blinds. Mail scattered across the surface, grocery ads, a credit card offer, a hospital bill I kept ignoring. And then, one envelope stood out. It was cream-colored, thick, and stamped with the name I hadn't heard in over a year. Halverston Blake, the family lawyer. I frowned, turning it over. No return note beyond the firm's address. I sliced it open with the edge of a butter knife. Inside, a letter requesting my presence at Mr. Halverston's office. It didn't say why. No emergency, no urgency, just a suggestion I come in to settle remaining estate matters. It had been 2 years since Dad passed. Rowena and I were never close, but we handled what little there was, at least I thought we had. Something about the wording felt wrong. I called the number on the letter. The receptionist confirmed the appointment. Just routine, she said. But her tone, it lingered, like she knew something I didn't. If only I had known how wrong I was. The next morning, I parked my car outside the law office. It was early, cool, quiet, Austin still shaking off the dew of morning. A breeze rustled the trees that lined the old brick building. Mr. Halverston met me at the door. Same warm smile, same old-fashioned suit. "Good to see you, Amy," he said, leading me inside. "Have a seat." We sat in the same room where I'd once signed Dad's will. There was no coffee offered today. He cleared his throat and slid a file across the desk. "Before I say anything, I need you to understand, none of this was my intention." I stared at him, then the file. He opened it for me. Inside were documents, bank statements, legal forms, and at the very top, a transfer record. One line caught my eye. Transfer of $2.5 million initiated 6 months ago from the estate trust to Rowena Ultan Carter. My heart didn't race. It dropped. "What? What is this?" I asked. Halverston didn't meet my eyes. "Rowena presented a signed directive. It had your name on it." I blinked. "My name?" "She said you'd agreed. It was notarized. It looked valid." My mouth went dry. I hadn't signed anything. I hadn't been asked. I reached for the page, hands trembling as I examined my so-called signature. It was neat, almost perfect, but it wasn't mine. "She forged it," I whispered, mostly to myself. Halverston shifted. "I'm sorry, Amy. I should have called earlier." I stood. I couldn't sit another second. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just walked out of that office, fists clenched so tight they left crescent moons in my palms. You grow up thinking family is the one thing that won't turn on you. Rowena was always the golden one, charming, loud, impossible to compete with. Dad used to say, "Just let her have it, Amy. Don't start trouble." And I didn't. Not when she borrowed money and never paid it back. Not when she crashed my car and blamed me for parking it wrong. I let it slide. Every time. She was the sister who cried her way out of messes. I was the one who cleaned them up. But looking back now, it wasn't just favoritism. It was training, conditioning. So when she finally took everything, she knew I'd be too stunned to fight back. She's always taken. But this time, she took everything. I didn't go home right away. I needed air, clarity. I sat in my car until the sun shifted positions in the sky. Then I went back into the law office. "I need a copy," I told Halverston. He paused. "Amy, I'm not asking." He nodded and pulled the file again. "Take it." I drove home, locked the front door, and laid the document beside my real signature, the one from my mortgage papers. I stared at them under the yellow glow of the desk lamp, the fake one. It was close, too close, but not close enough. The way the A looped on mine, the way the tail on the Y curved. It was wrong, and anyone who knew my handwriting would spot it. This wasn't a mistake. She did this, on purpose. I took out my phone, snapped high-resolution photos of every page, saved them in a folder deep in my cloud storage, behind layers of decoy files. She thinks I won't fight. That's where she's wrong. That night, when the house was quiet, I finally let go. A single tear rolled down my cheek. then another. I didn't sob. I didn't scream. I just sat there, shaking. I opened the old photo album, a picture of us from the summer of '92. Rowena with her crooked grin, me holding her hand. Taped inside the page was a note from Dad, yellowed with age. Always protect each other. It felt cruel now. You broke us, I whispered. But I'll fix it, with or without you. I closed the album and opened my laptop. I typed the words legal fraud sibling inheritance cases into the search bar and hit enter. She has no idea I'm coming for everything she thought I'd let go. I didn't expect the man on the other end of the phone to sound exactly like my father. But before that call, there was the night, the long, aching hours after discovering Rowena's betrayal. I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling as if the answer was carved there. It wasn't rage that kept me up. It was clarity. Betrayal doesn't happen all at once. It grows. Like mold in the corners no one checks until it's too late. The worst part, I wasn't surprised. Dawn crept in through the curtains. I sat up, tossed the blanket aside, and shuffled into the kitchen. The coffee from yesterday was still in the pot. I poured it cold, didn't bother microwaving it. Took a sip and stood at the window, watching the sky bruise with light. I'd spent years smoothing over my sister's messes, always keeping peace, always understanding. But silence isn't peace. It's surrender. And I'm done surrendering. Not anymore, I whispered. I walked back to my bedroom, powered up my old laptop, and started digging. I wasn't looking for comfort. I was looking for truth. Buried in the archives, emails I'd long forgotten. Most were dull family updates, recipes, old photos. Then I saw a thread labeled Ranch Transfer Planning. The date, 9 months before Dad died. I opened it. There was a message from my father, addressed to Rowena and me. In it, he clearly wrote that I was to inherit full ownership of the ranch. No ambiguity, no split. Then her reply, sickly sweet, dripping with manipulation. Of course, Daddy, I'll help Amy handle the paperwork so it's easier on her. Attached at the bottom was a PDF, transfer authorization. I don't remember ever opening that file, but she did. She had it all along. She kept it. She waited. Then she struck. My stomach twisted. It wasn't just theft. It was erasure. She wanted to write me out of the story entirely. I downloaded everything, compressed the files. Sent them to a new contact I found online, Vaughn Remy, Fraud Estate Law. He wasn't local, but he came highly recommended. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The wind outside had picked up. Leaves danced across the porch like they were running from something. I sat down, breathing in deep. I knew what she'd taken. Now I knew how. But what I didn't know, yet, was why. That night, as the house settled into stillness, my memory took me somewhere else. 3 years earlier. The last time we all had brunch together. Dad had made his usual scrambled eggs, over-peppered like always. Rowena had shown up late, sunglasses still on, hair slightly damp. Hungover, probably. He'd said, almost offhand, I need to get my will updated soon. Rowena froze for a second, then laughed, too brightly. Oh, I'm sure Amy will be fine with whatever you decide. I had smiled then, shrugged it off. But now I saw it for what it was. A warning shot, wrapped in sweetness. Dad had looked at me, just for a beat. A look that lingered, as if he knew what might come. Maybe he hoped we'd sort it out ourselves. We didn't. And that brunch? It was the last meal we had together before he got sick. I blinked back to the present, feeling the weight of it settle in. Rowena had been planning this for a long time. Just past noon, my phone lit up. Her name. I stared at it for a moment, debating whether to answer. Then I did. Amy, she chirped. It's been too long. Her voice dripped with fake cheer, as if we'd just missed each other in line at the store. Hey, Ro, I said evenly. I was thinking, let's do lunch. Just us. Catch up. I paused, then smiled into the silence. Sure, I'd like that. She had no idea. The next day, I arrived 10 minutes early at the cafe. My phone was in my purse, recording. She walked in wearing expensive sunglasses and a smile meant for strangers. We sat. She ordered wine. "It's been a crazy few months," she said. "I wanted to make sure we're okay." I let her talk. Didn't interrupt. Just nodded, sipped my water. Then she said it, so casually it might have slipped past someone not listening. I had to make sure the ranch wasn't wasted on sentiment. My pulse spiked, but I didn't blink. "Sentiment?" I echoed. She shrugged. "You know how emotional you get about that place." I smiled softly. "Sure, I get it." But inside, I was documenting every word, every breath. She thought I came for peace. I came for evidence. Back home, I locked the door and slid the phone out of my purse, transferred the recording, replayed it with headphones. There was her voice, calm, smug, careless. I printed a transcript, pinned it on the corkboard beside Dad's photo. "You built this for me," I whispered. "I won't let her destroy it." Then I grabbed a legal pad. At the top, I wrote, "Things I've learned about my sister." It wasn't a list of anger. It was a pattern, how she played people, when she lied, what she cared about. That's the thing. Some people don't change. You just stop giving them the tools to hurt you. I had enough proof to start a war. But first, I needed an ally. My phone rang just as dawn cracked across the skyline. I'd sent Von Remy every file I'd bled over the night before, and I didn't expect a response. My heart thudded when I saw his name flash. I answered. "Miss Carter, this is Von Remy. I reviewed your documents. Your sister's transfer is a forgery." He didn't ask. He told, calm, precise voice. "Meet me this afternoon downtown. We'll go over the details." I paused, then agreed. His voice, steady, deliberate, reminded me of Dad's when he gave advice. I felt a shift. This wasn't aimless pursuit. It might work. I found his office in the faded brick district, a modest building hiding more than it showed. Vaughn met me in a quiet waiting room, offered water. He walked me into his inner office, shelves of legal journals, framed certificates, a desk that looked worn but cared for. He handed me the document I already knew, the forged transfer. Then he said quietly, "I lost a case like this once. My own brother forged our family's papers. I didn't see it until too late." His flaws made him real. He showed me where the signature on Rowena's document diverged from what any court would accept. Baseline shifts, odd spacing, a timestamp post-dating Dad's death. "People who fake power always leave fingerprints," he told me. I realized he didn't see me as a victim. He saw me as someone worth defending. He leaned in, voice soft but firm. "Stay quiet for now. Let her think she's ahead." It sounded like strategy, not surrender. Walking back through evening light, I felt a strange energy. Danger, but possibility. At home, I spread every file I still had under the desk lamp. Old letters, receipts, property documents. I discovered an envelope tucked beneath heavier papers, addressed in Dad's handwriting. Private. A.H. Inside. "Trust your instincts, Amy. The truth always leaves a trail." Tears blurred the margins. I set it aside, blotting my eyes, then returned to work. I labeled folders: fraud, evidence, legacy, sorting, stacking, ordering. Each act felt like rebuilding a broken foundation. By morning, a sharp ring jolted me awake. Vaughn's name lit the screen. "Amy, sit down." His tone had weight. "Your sister didn't just transfer the ranch. She refinanced it in your name. You're liable for debt she never intended to pay." The room swayed. "She put me in chains," I whispered. He didn't pause. "That's fraud. We'll use it. But don't confront her yet. Let her make her next move wrong." I swallowed fear. "Then let's force her into the wrong move." He said nothing more, but I could hear approval in his silence. That night, the memory came back. The hospital room, his pale face, my trembling hand in his. He said, "You can't fix broken people by letting them break you." I smiled then. I thought he meant gentleness. Now I understood he meant strength. I stood at the window, quiet with resolve. I won't let her break me again. Vaughn said silence was my best weapon, but Rowena just gave me a reason to use my voice. I arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early, heart thudding like a drum. I chose the corner table by the window, the one with the clearest view of the front door. The light filtered through lace curtains, casting soft patterns on the polished wood. The decor was cozy, mismatched bookshelves, gentle music playing low, potted plants at every window. Too gentle, really, for a meeting like this. I rehearsed opening lines in my head, fingers tapping under the table. My phone sat inside my purse, with the small recorder hidden just beneath the lining. I forced calm into my voice as I ordered a black coffee. I sat straight, shoulders firm. I whispered into nothing. This isn't about closure. This is about truth. Rowena walked in like she owned every room she entered, smooth, composed, practiced. Her smile was plastered on, too bright to be genuine. She greeted me with a soft, "Hey sis, how have you been?" as if nothing had happened. I nodded, voice steady. "I'm fine." She slid into the seat across, hands clasped. She complimented my outfit, calling me her sweet sister who always looks so put together. I didn't let her tone get under my skin. I responded cold, polite. "Thank you. I try." Then she passed me a folder. "I thought we should talk. Clear the air." I opened it casually and froze. Inside were retainer agreements, invoices, bank statements, documents showing that Vaughn had taken a retainer from her before ever representing me. My chest tightened. She'd bribed him first, ensured his loyalty lay with her. Betrayal not just from family, but from the legal system. She kept her smile. "I just wanted to be transparent," she said. She watched me. She thought I'd crumble. She walked out, light footsteps in the quiet cafe. I stayed seated, heart hollow, stomach twisted. With the last of my coffee, I looked out across the street. "So the lawyer was never on my side," I muttered. I left money on the table. More than enough. My hands shook. Outside, I paused under the pecan tree across the street, the one Dad and I used to plant seeds under when I was a child. I touched a fallen leaf in my palm and remembered him saying, "You have roots, Amy. Never forget them." Tears threatened, but I swallowed them back. I whispered, "They think I'll crumble. But I won't." Later, Rowena texted me. "Meet me at Mom's old house. We need to talk." My finger hovered over decline, but I went. The house was silent, dusty. We stood in the living room, empty furniture echoing the past. She started awkwardly. "Dad never left clear instructions. I did what I had to do to keep things stable." Her voice cracked. She let a single tear fall. "I was always afraid you'd fight back too hard. I didn't know when to stop." In that moment, I glimpsed her vulnerability, not excuse, but fracture. I slid the email to her quietly, the one proving Dad's original will. Her face turned pale. She stammered, mouth opening, shutting. The tension hung between us, a question with no safe answer. Does she reach for forgiveness or flee deeper into denial? She looked at me with pity, but I'm no longer asking for mercy. I woke before sunrise, chest tight but racing with a new kind of energy. The house was silent, the kind of silence that lets your thoughts echo. I walked to my desk and laid out everything I had: email threads, signature comparisons, Vaughn's margin notes. Dust motes drifted in the weak pre-dawn light. I picked up a mug of cold coffee and stared at Dad's photograph, one of the few things in this fight that felt steady. "This is the line I crossed today," I told it. Then I opened my laptop and created an encrypted folder named Evidence, Rowena Fraud. As I dropped files into it, my fingers trembled slightly. When the final file locked in, I whispered, "Let's see how far she'll go to stop me." By mid-morning, I was on the phone with the auditing firm Vaughn had mentioned. The man's voice carried the weight of someone reluctant to speak. I asked for records of property refinancing transactions tied to my name. After a pause, he said softly, "There was an internal audit flagged months ago, but it was suppressed." "Suppressed how?" I pressed. He hesitated. "Administrative override. Access logs show your sister's device was used to disable the audit process." My heart tightened. Minutes later, encrypted logs arrived in my inbox, IP addresses, timestamps, device IDs, all pointing to Rowena's account. She hadn't only forged paper. She had buried her tracks digitally. I screenshot every entry, saved backups, and forwarded copies to Vaughn. The betrayal was deeper than I'd dared imagine. That afternoon, I sat in Vaughn's office with him. He studied the logs, brow furrowed. "This is powerful," he said, "but she'll try to discredit it, say you hacked her system." I met his gaze. "Then she can prove it. The timestamps and records both match." He nodded slowly. "Let's file a motion to seal the original documents. Request a forensic audit. Protect what can't be changed." He leaned back and asked quietly, "Are you ready for this fight?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes, I've always been." Later that night, I returned home and sat in my office under a single lamp. I opened the audio file from the cafe meeting. Her voice came through smooth, confident. I slowed playback. Under the chatter, I heard a whisper. He never meant to give it to her anyway. My breath caught. Rewind. Play again. There it was, her voice, admitting intent. Then another slip. "Fix the document later." I nearly dropped the phone. My chest felt bruised and alive all at once. I renamed the audio confession, made 3 locked backup copies, one on my computer, one on an external drive hidden away, another sent to Vaughn's secure vault. Then I texted him, "We have her voice." His reply was immediate, "Keep it safe. That file is your strongest move." I lay awake afterward, the darkness heavy. I thought of every time I wondered if I was imagining it, every time I felt small. Holding that recording, I didn't feel small anymore. I felt like I had a weapon. I felt accountable. Proof is the antidote to denial. Tomorrow, I won't hide. She won't see it coming. I just need the courtroom to believe the voice, not her lies. As I exited the hidden vault, the house felt like it exhaled. As if relieved, I finally heard my father's voice. The air was still thick, but quieter. I stepped into the hallway, the folder pressed tight against my chest. Vaughn waited, silent, steady. We didn't need words. We both knew what was coming next. I walked toward the main stairwell, passing the framed family portraits that lined the walls. Snapshots of a story no one ever told right. My footsteps felt heavier with each one. I reached the bottom, turned the corner, and there it was. The door to Dad's study. Inside, Vaughn was already at the bookshelf, fingers running along the grooves behind the 3rd row from the top. Click. The panel shifted open just like he remembered. Behind the hidden door, the metal vault sat untouched. He opened it with slow, deliberate turns of the dial. When it clicked open, I leaned in. The air inside was stale, like it had held its breath for 20 years. Dust-covered files, manila envelopes, a box of tapes. One tape was labeled in Dad's scrawl. 1998, Dad's message to Amy. I stared at it. My name, my year, my father. We placed it into the old VHS player. The screen crackled. Then came his face, a little older than I remembered. Eyes tired but warm. "Amy," his voice filled the room. "You will never be forgotten. This house, this legacy, is yours." My legs buckled. Vaughn caught me by the arm, helped me to the nearby chair. I felt everything at once: grief, love, guilt, betrayal. My father remembered me. This wasn't just a home. It was a truth she tried to bury. The study door burst open. Rowena. She didn't speak. She just stood there, breathing hard, holding something small and black. A remote. She saw the tape. Saw Dad. Her lips parted. No sound. "You were going to destroy it," Vaughn said. She didn't deny it. Just stared, frozen. The tape ended. Silence. But it wasn't peace. "You manipulated everything," I said, standing now. "Even his words?" "You were always too soft," she snapped. He was confused. "That tape doesn't mean what you think." I did what I had to do. For the family. "No," I said. "You did it for you." Her jaw clenched. "You think you're the hero now? You think you own this place? You think you own memory?" "I own what's mine, And you won't erase it. I pressed play again. Dad's voice returned. Rowena's face cracked. She staggered back a step. I tried to protect his legacy, she muttered. No, I replied. You tried to rewrite it. Vaughn stepped between us, but I didn't flinch. I was done stepping back. You don't understand, she said, voice louder now. He wasn't himself near the end. That tape, he didn't know what he was saying. The logs match the video. Metadata is clean. Vault was locked with his key. The one he gave me. I still have it. I held it up. She looked at it like it burned. You planted that, she said. Or someone did. I didn't mean for any of this. No, I interrupted. You meant for me to disappear. She stared at me, and I saw it, fear. Not of what I had, but of what she'd lost control over. She turned and ran. The door slammed shut behind her. I stood in the quiet that followed. Vaughn picked up the tape, placed it gently beside the other documents. She's gone, he said. She left what matters, I replied. He left me alone in the study. The silence wasn't heavy anymore, just clear. I picked up Dad's photo. It had been face down for years. I wiped off the dust, placed it upright. She didn't realize my silence was power she couldn't break, I whispered. Tomorrow, I'd bring it all forward, to the court, to the press, to anyone who'd been fed the wrong version of our story. I walked to the hallway, one last look back at the room that had held everything. This was the home I never left, and now I reclaim it. She ran, but she left behind every lie I ever feared she'd keep hidden. In the garden's shadow, I realized the fight had truly begun, not in court, but in hearts. The cold from the stone path crept up through my shoes as I crossed back into the house. The hallway stretched long ahead, barely lit, each portrait along the walls casting judgment from their frames. Vaughn caught up with me just before the double doors. He slipped the flash drive into my hand. The tape recorder was already tucked into my coat. His eyes said it all. No more waiting. I stood before the portraits, paused. My mother's face, untouched by time. My father's, stoic and kind. Rowena's, just beside mine. The family version, all of it a facade. Let's bring them into the light, I muttered. My hand pushed open the door to the great hall. Echoes filled the space as I stepped in. The sound of steps meant for confrontation. I made my way toward the hallway leading to the vault room, but when I turned the knob, it didn't budge. Locked. Behind me, soft footsteps. Rowena's voice slid through the dark. You shouldn't have come here. I turned. She was holding her phone out, screen aglow, court order. Filed 5 minutes before you arrived, she said. The vault sealed. You had no right. I have every right. This house, the estate, the name. You stole the truth. Her tone hardened. You're confusing truth with memory, and you never had the stomach for either. She stepped closer, blocking the door. Her eyes flicked to the recorder in my hand. You think some sentimental tape erases the rest? It's not just a tape, I replied. It's proof. She gave a crooked smile. You can't fight secrets with sentiment. Vaughn appeared just as security rounded the corner. The guards hesitated. Vaughn raised his voice, demanding the legal basis. Rowena waved the order. You're not walking in there again, Amy, she said, smug. The door slid shut behind her, lock clicking hard. Vaughn pulled me away before I said something I'd regret. We found our way outside, into the garden. The moon was bright but distant. I sat down on the cold stone bench, breath short, pulse racing. She knew, I said. She knew I was coming. She's scared, Vaughn replied. Which means you're close. I stared down at the recorder in my hand. If I go public, we lose the legal case. It'll look desperate. Vaughn sat beside me. You've got momentum. Use it, before she buries everything again. I looked up, trees swaying lightly. The garden used to be peace. Now it felt like a chessboard. If the law locks me out, I said slowly, then the world should see the truth. We headed back. Just as we re-entered the great hall, I saw him, Mr. Lennox, the old groundskeeper, fired by Rowena years ago. He stood at the far end of the corridor, clutching something in his hand. He walked over, slow but sure. "I saw her," he said, breath ragged. "Last night. She changed the vault locks herself." He held out a ring of keys. "I kept a copy, just in case." Vaughn took the keys. One of them, square, brass, worn, matched the vault's lock perfectly. Mr. Lennox pulled a second item from his coat pocket, a small voice recorder. "I've been documenting. She went into rooms she said were sealed, destroyed documents, talked to people she swore she never met. I couldn't stand by." For a long moment, none of us moved. Rowena appeared again, her expression unreadable. Lennox met her eyes. "You fired me, but this place was never yours." Rowena looked from me to Vaughn, then the keys, then the recorder, and for the first time she flinched. Vaughn leaned close. "This is enough to force reopening." Rowena slammed her fist against the old oak table. The sound cracked the air. Then she turned and disappeared into the dark. I stood still. The hall around me quieted. The faces in the portraits watched. My hands shook as I looked down, recorder in one, keys in the other. I let the emotions rise. My father's voice echoed in my memory. "Truth is louder than any lie." And I believed him. "I'll prove it," I whispered. "Tomorrow, we make this public." Vaughn nodded. I walked away, strength gathering in my steps. They thought the darkness would save them, but I brought the torch. In the sudden hush after the gavel, I realized Rowena wasn't the only one who fell. I finally stood. Morning broke gray over the courthouse, clouds heavy like the silence between me and the woman I used to call sister. I climbed the marble steps with the tape and court files clutched in one hand, my other gripped tight to the old brass key in my pocket. It felt heavier than it should have. Every step echoed louder than the last. Inside, the buzz of the gallery dulled the moment I walked through security. Familiar faces glanced my way, some nodding, some whispering, like they didn't expect me to show. I caught a glimpse of Rowena across the aisle. Her eyes widened. She didn't think I'd come back with proof. But here I was. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Then the day began. Kellen was first to testify. He stepped up, calm but measured. Not dramatic, just honest. He talked about growing up around the estate, about how our father once placed a small key in my hand. "Guard this always," he'd told me. Kellen remembered that. He remembered more than I thought he did. He pulled out a ring, tarnished metal, familiar shape, the same key that opened the vault. He went on, telling the court how Rowena had been trying to get into that room for years, how he once caught her bribing a contractor to bypass the locks. He logged dates. He recorded times. He turned toward the judge. "This key," he said, holding it up, "belongs to Amy. Always did." Gasps filled the room. Even the stenographer paused. Rowena shifted in her chair. Her eyes darted to her lawyer, then to me. I didn't flinch. The judge asked for the key. Kellen stepped down and placed it on the evidence tray. You could feel the shift in the air. Something irreversible had just happened. Rowena's attorney stood to cross. He started poking holes, questioning Kellen's memory, loyalty, motives. "Your family," he said. "Isn't it true you and Amy were always close?" "I was close to the truth," Kellen answered, "and I don't take kindly to lies dressed in silk." He wasn't rattled. Neither was I. Vaughn objected. Submitted metadata pulled from the vault logs. He handed over timestamps that matched with videotape footage. No room left for argument. The judge nodded, admitting everything. I watched Rowena's jaw tighten. She whispered something to her attorney. He didn't react. Then Vaughn pressed play. The courtroom quieted. The tape, not the clipped version, but the full, uncut confession. My hands clenched under the table. Rowena's voice poured through the speakers. Clear. Controlled. Cruel. "Dad never meant her part," she said. "She was always the shadow. I was the one with vision. She was just soft." Someone in the back gasped. The court murmured. The judge asked for silence. Rowena stood, tried to protest. The judge raised his hand. "Sit down," he said. "Let it play." Vaughn didn't blink. I didn't breathe. Rowena's voice cracked toward the end. She'll never fight me. She's too scared. I stood, not in anger, not in tears, just clarity. I never asked for more than what was mine, I said. I only ever wanted the truth. You could feel the weight of those words settle across every bench. The jury took their time, but not much. When the judge returned with the decision, the gallery was silent again. He spoke firm, no drama. This court rules in favor of Amy Winslow. Estate rights restored. Vault and contents under her ownership. All claims by Rowena Winslow are void. The gavel came down. Rowena slumped. Her lawyer didn't console her. No one did. She covered her face with her hands. The weight of it all, decades of secrets, the power plays, the manipulation, crushed her in real time. I didn't smile. Justice doesn't taste sweet. It just makes the air easier to breathe. Vaughn looked over, gave me a quiet nod. Now, as the courtroom cleared, I stepped outside into bright, blinding light. The cold steel of the key was still in my pocket. I didn't feel victory. I felt peace. Heavy, quiet peace. I whispered to myself, "Thank you, Dad." This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about setting things right, about building something new from the ashes she left behind. This is only the beginning. Now I must rebuild what she nearly destroyed. A single envelope, tucked inside the cottage's mailbox, waited for me. Its handwriting unmistakably Mom's. I stepped inside the house I once ran from. The walls, the corners, the soft creaks under my feet. It was all still there. Only this time, it was mine. Not in paper, but in peace. Late afternoon sun spilled across the floorboards, catching the dust in the air like old memories suspended mid-flight. I set my suitcase down gently in the living room. No rush. I unpacked slow, methodically, folding each item as if folding away years of silence, anger, fear. On the mantel, a photo of Dad and me, him holding a fishing rod, me grinning with missing teeth. I touched the edge. Later that day, while clearing out the attic, I found it. A letter, tucked into an old shoebox. His handwriting, his words. "Don't fight for revenge, Amy. Fight for truth. The rest will take care of itself." I didn't cry from sadness. I cried from release. The next morning, Vaughn knocked, holding news in his hand and something softer in his eyes. "She asked to see you," he said. I didn't answer at first. "She's different now," he added. Not asking for much. Just time. So I went. Not for her. For me. Rowena sat behind a glass partition in a quiet room. Not the cold concrete place I feared. A residential facility. Her hair was duller, her frame smaller, but it was the look in her eyes. No fire, no schemes, just worn-out weight. She didn't apologize. She didn't cry. She slid an envelope across the table. "It's the deed," she said. "Grandma's cottage in Maine. It's yours. I'm not asking forgiveness. I'm done taking." I took the envelope. No words felt right, so I nodded, stood, and left. Later that week, I visited Aunt Elise. First time in years. We sat on her porch drinking sweet tea. She brought up the inheritance fight before I could. Told me she stayed quiet because she was scared of what speaking might cost her. Her voice cracked when she said it. I didn't hold it against her. We laughed that day. We also cried. She told me stories I'd never heard about my mother. Kellen showed up the next night with old photo albums and stayed for dinner. I invited others the weekend after. The backyard, once dry and overgrown, was alive with voices, clinking glasses, warm food. For the first time in decades, that house had laughter in it again. Somewhere between casseroles and stories about Dad's bad driving, I realized we weren't rebuilding what was. We were building something new. A few weeks passed. I met with a nonprofit advisor and laid out plans for a legal aid fund in Dad's name. Vaughn volunteered to help set it up, pro bono. He said, "Your dad would have wanted this." The house became more than home. It became purpose. I planted tomatoes in the back, painted the hallway. I read Dad's journals every Sunday morning with coffee, walked at sunrise,
Some mornings still felt heavy, but they were mine. One late afternoon, I sat by the beach. I watched waves do what waves do: erase, return, reshape. Inheritance brought war, but truth brought healing. I told a group of women at a legal workshop the same. I know what it's like, I told them, to feel like you don't have a voice until someone hands it back to you. But here's the thing: you always had it. I ended with something I'd written in the margin of Dad's letter. Forgiveness doesn't say they were right. It says, I'm choosing peace. I stood up from the beach, brushed sand from my jeans, and just breathed. The air tasted like salt and closure. That evening, my phone rang. Vaughn's voice came through, steady but with something buried underneath. There's something else you need to see, he said. It's about your mother's side of the trust. I stared out the window.
Thought about the envelope from Rowena, about my father's words, about the ocean. Then I smiled. Then it looks like the story isn't over yet.